There is a kind of dream that comes quietly, not with noise, not with sudden brilliance, but like a soft shadow at the edge of a room. It does not announce itself with triumph. It does not demand attention. It simply appears, almost unnoticed, in the quiet corners of a heart that is willing to pause and listen. At first, it feels fragile, like a leaf caught in still air. It sways slightly, uncertain of its own weight. It is easy to ignore, easy to push aside, even when it stirs something deep inside. And yet, no matter how many ordinary days pass, it remains a small, persistent presence that does not fade, no matter how softly it whispers. What is it about a dream that asks so little, yet carries so much? Perhaps it is its patience. Perhaps it is its silence. For those who carry such a dream, the world does not always see what they hold. Others pass by, busy with their own matters, and cannot feel the quiet pulse of hope beating just beneath the surface. How could they? Dreams like this are invisible at first. They grow in shadow, in thought, in moments when no one is watching. Sometimes the person carrying it senses it more clearly in the hush of early morning or the stillness of night. A soft thought rises, tender and persistent. It does not shout. It does not demand. It only waits. And in those quiet moments, the heart begins to understand that this small flame must be guarded, not hidden in shame, not locked away in fear, but held with a gentle reverence that honors its delicate strength. And yet, it is not easy. How often do people misunderstand silence? How often do they mistake quietness for doubt, or patience for weakness? There are glances that question words spoken lightly, that weigh heavier than they intend. They do not see what lives in the unseen spaces of the heart. They do not understand the careful tending that goes into a dream held without spectacle. The person carrying it learns slowly. They learn that some things are too precious to be placed in the middle of noise, that some truths grow only when given space, time, and quiet loyalty. Have you ever noticed how some of the most meaningful things in life are the things no one notices at first? Perhaps it is because they are waiting quietly to grow into their own strength. And in these quiet moments of carrying, a transformation begins. Not a loud change that others can see, but a gentle shift that moves through the heart like a slow river. A new awareness takes root. A realization that the dream does not need recognition, and that understanding from others, while pleasant, is not necessary. The dream needs only one faithful companion, the person who holds it. Sometimes, late in the stillness, they sit alone and wonder why this small hope remains. Why it returns even after days that seem ordinary, even after doubts that whisper of letting it go. Why does it cling so softly, persist so quietly? Perhaps because it is meant to teach something beyond its own shape. Perhaps because the act of believing, even in silence, carries a lesson about patience, care, and the gentle power of the heart. And so, they protect it, not with force, not with explanation, not with the hope of being seen. They protect it simply by carrying it, by letting it exist without interference, by believing in it when no one else can. And through that quiet protection, the dream begins to shape them, not with grandeur or loud declaration, but with a subtle, patient strength that grows in stillness. In time, they come to understand that the true power of such a dream is not in being known. It is not in proving anything to anyone. It is in the quiet devotion that tends to it day by day, in the soft belief that refuses to waver, in the gentle courage that holds it steady through moments of doubt and misunderstanding. And so, night after night, in the hush of thought and the solitude of heart, the dream lives. It moves softly, invisibly, teaching the quiet lessons of patience, care, and gentle faith. And the person who carries it learns something precious, that the most lasting strength often grows in silence, and that some dreams are meant to be held, not displayed. It is in that quiet keeping that they begin to see slowly and softly what it truly means to believe, not with noise, not with proof, but simply, gently, with the unwavering faith of a heart that has learned to protect its own quiet light. There are times when silence begins to feel heavy, almost like a weight pressing softly against the chest. It is not a loud weight. It does not crash or shout. It simply rests there, a quiet reminder of what is not said, of what is felt but cannot be shared. The person carrying the dream knows this feeling well. They move through the world with it, noticing it in the pauses between conversations, in the stillness after words have been spoken. They hear the gentle questioning in others' voices, even when it is not meant to wound. A soft glance, a half smile, a word that lingers just long enough to leave a small doubt. It is subtle, almost invisible, and yet it can touch the heart deeply. Have you ever felt the weight of being misunderstood? Even when no one is speaking harshly, even when everything seems calm, there is a quiet pressure that seeps in, making the silence feel louder than any sound. And in these moments, the dream feels fragile. It does not ask for protection from storms or great trials. It asks only for understanding, which is rare. Sometimes the person wonders if the quiet dream they carry is too small, too delicate, too invisible to matter. But then, in the same breath, they remember that the very fragility of it is what makes it so precious. It is a strange thing, being misunderstood. People may not mean harm. They may not even realize it. And yet, their inability to see what lives quietly in another's heart can feel like a shadow pressing softly across the soul. How often do we meet others and sense that they cannot see the things that matter most to us? How often do their words or their silence make us question our own choices, our own quiet devotion? And still, there is a learning in this. The person carrying the dream begins to see that misunderstanding as not always an accusation. It is often a reflection of what others cannot know. The world has its own shape and rhythm, and some things are meant to exist quietly, away from the eyes of those who would measure them against their own expectations. They notice the small moments that sting more than words, the sideways glance that seems to ask, "Are you sure?" The gentle shrug that hints at doubt, the quiet laughter that does not include them, though it is not unkind. These moments can make silence feel heavier, because the heart wishes to respond, to explain, to defend what cannot be seen. And yet, they do not, at least not yet. There's a pause, a breath, a realization that speaking too soon, speaking too loudly, may scatter the delicate light they carry. So they hold it in, they feel the discomfort, yes, but they also feel the quiet strength that comes from restraint. Have you ever noticed how something precious seems to grow stronger when left, too, untouched by the opinions of others? When it is not forced into the light before it is ready, the misunderstanding continues, softly, gently, almost like a whisper that is never fully formed. And still, the person carries the dream. They carry it through days that seem ordinary, through moments that feel heavy, and through glances that cannot see its shape. They notice the pull to defend, to explain, to justify. But they resist, because there is wisdom in knowing that some things are understood only in time, and some truths need only the quiet witness of one faithful heart. And in the silence, there is reflection. They feel the stirrings of doubt, yes, but also the stirrings of patience. The quiet knowledge that being misunderstood does not make the dream less real. The small flame inside does not flicker because the world does not yet recognize it. It burns softly, steadily, nourished by belief that needs no audience. Sometimes, late at night, when everything is still, they feel the weight of the world's quiet judgments pressing in. And in that moment, they also feel the strange comfort of knowing that misunderstanding is not rejection. It is merely a shadow. It does not touch the essence of what they carry. And slowly, gently, they begin to understand that this discomfort has a purpose. It teaches them the patience of silence. It teaches them the strength of restraint. It teaches them that the heart can remain whole, even when unseen, even when unspoken to. And so they continue, carrying the quiet dream through quiet days, feeling the soft weight of misunderstanding, yet refusing to let it fracture the gentle belief that lives inside. They learn to breathe in the silence, to feel the discomfort, and to let the quiet faith grow. Because sometimes the most profound strength is not shown in reaction, but in the calm endurance of the heart that chooses to hold sack, Edie, even when no one else understands. It is in this slow, gentle tension, the feeling of being unseen, the quiet pressure of doubt, the hush of misunderstanding, that the person learns something deep and lasting. That silence is not always empty. That restraint is not weakness. That carrying a dream quietly, even in the face of soft disbelief, is itself an act of courage. And in that knowing, the heart begins to rest, softly, in the quiet power of its own belief. There is a moment when a person begins to notice the power in simply not reacting, It is not a power that calls attention to itself. It does not shine or announce itself. It is quiet, subtle, almost invisible, and yet it is stronger than any noise, any argument, any attempt to be understood. They have felt the tug of words, not meant for them, the soft pressure of doubt in glances, the quiet questioning that lingers like a shadow. And they have felt the urge to respond, to explain, to defend what lives quietly in their heart. It is a natural feeling, is it not, to want to speak when you are misunderstood, to want to push back against disbelief, to want to remind the world that what you carry is real. And yet, they do not, at least, not in the way others might expect. Instead, they pause. They breathe. They let the moment pass without adding their voice to the hum of the world. In this pause, something remarkable begins to unfold. The heart feels lighter even as the world continues unaware. The quiet restraint becomes a small act of strength, a proof of self-respect that no one can take away. Have you noticed how much energy we spend in trying to convince others? How often we pour ourselves into words, explanations, justifications, hoping to be seen, to be understood, to be validated, and yet, sometimes, it is in the very act of remaining still that we discover the truest strength. In the stillness, the heart finds its own rhythm. In the silence, the dream is allowed to grow, unshaken by the opinions of others. There's a gentle pride in this kind of restraint, not the loud kind that demands recognition, but a quiet awareness that one's value is not determined by how loudly it is defended. They begin to feel a new kind of confidence, not the confidence of proving, of winning, of being heard, but the confidence of knowing that what is true within them does not need constant defense. It exists on its own, nurtured by belief, patience, and care. And it is not always easy. The pull to react is strong, almost magnetic. A sharp word, a quick correction, a visible display of strength would feel satisfying for a moment, yet they notice that such moments of reaction often scatter more than they protect. They disturb the fragile flame inside, drawing attention outward instead of letting the quiet light grow. And so, they resist. They learn to breathe through the discomfort, to sit with it, to allow it to pass. How often do we mistake reaction for strength? How often do we believe that speaking louder or pushing harder will prove the truth of what we carry? And yet, here, in the calm refusal to react, the heart learns a deeper lesson. Strength is not always loud. Power is not always visible. Sometimes it is a quiet presence, a gentle insistence that nothing external can shake the truth within. They begin to notice the subtle changes that come with this practice. The world may continue to question, to doubt, to misunderstand, yet their inner life feels steadier. The quiet dream, once fragile, now rests in a heart that has learned patience and restraint. The pull to explain diminishes. The need to convince fades. They discover a gentle freedom in simply allowing their own truth to exist without interruption. Sometimes, late at night, when everything is still, they feel a soft satisfaction not from being seen, but from having remained faithful to themselves. The dream feels safer now, nurtured by silence, strengthened by restraint, and they notice something unexpected. The very act of not reacting has a kind of power that words cannot touch. It does not demand attention. It does not ask for acknowledgement. It simply is. And slowly, over time, they begin to understand that this is the essence of inner strength. It is not proven in arguments, in explanations, in the shifting opinions of others. It is proven in the quiet choices made again and again, to breathe instead of speak, to pause instead of react, to protect the delicate light that lives within. There is a soft wisdom in this, a gentle understanding that the world cannot diminish what is quietly held. And so they continue, day by day, moment by moment, noticing the pull to react and letting it pass, watching the subtle growth of the dream they carry. They feel the slow unfolding of a calm, steady power that does not shout, does not demand, and does not need recognition. It is in this quiet presence, this gentle refusal to be drawn into noise, that they find something lasting. Not an outward triumph, not a visible victory, but the quiet knowledge that the heart can remain whole, the dream can remain alive, and the inner life can grow strong simply by choosing silence, patience, and unwavering care. And in that quiet, the person discovers the truest kind of freedom. The freedom that comes from knowing that strength is not always in action, but often in stillness. Over time, something changes quietly within the heart. The need to explain, to prove, to be understood, begins to fade. It does not banish suddenly, nor does it disappear with effort. It softens slowly, like morning mist lifting from a still lake. And in that gentle lifting, the person begins to notice a new kind of peace. Not the loud kind that sings or shouts, but a calm, steady presence that fills the spaces inside without needing to be seen. They realize softly that the dream they have carried all this while was never truly dependent on the world's notice. Its value was never tied to applause or recognition. It existed quietly, faithfully, in the heart of someone willing to hold it without interruption, without proof. And in that realization, the heart feels lighter, freer, yet somehow stronger than ever before. Have you ever felt the strange comfort of being unseen, yet still fully yourself, of knowing that the quiet choices you have made, the small acts of patience, the gentle refusals to react, the careful tending of something precious, have shaped you more than any praise or attention could? It is a subtle satisfaction, one that does not call for acknowledgement. It rests softly in the soul, like the echo of a distant river, steady and unhurried. They notice how the world continues, as it always has, moving and speaking in its own rhythm. Glances may still question. Words may still carry gentle doubt. And yet, these things no longer disturb them as they once did. The soft weight of misunderstanding has been replaced by a quiet certainty that comes from knowing their own heart, from honoring the small, persistent light they have carried. And the dream itself seems different now. It no longer trembles in the chest, fragile and easily swayed. It rests in calm confidence, nurtured by patience and the gentle care of one who has learned the value of silence. It grows, slowly and unseen, not because it is forced, not because it is forced, not because it has learned to thrive in quiet faith. There is a subtle joy in this understanding, a quiet contentment that does not demand expression. It is the realization that life is not measured by how loudly one is heard or by the approval of others, but by the depth of one's own belief, the steadiness of one's own care, and the gentle strength that grows in quiet devotion. Sometimes, in the stillness of a soft evening, they pause and reflect on the journey that has brought them here, the moments of doubt, the small pressures, the silent questions from others. All of it, they see now, was part of the shaping. Each quiet choice, each gentle restraint, each moment of holding back to protect the fragile light inside, has led to this calm presence, and they realize that the heart, when allowed to move with care and patience, becomes a place of its own power, subtle but unshakable. They begin to notice the way this quiet strength touches the world around them, not through noise or display, but through the gentle steadiness of their being. People may not see it, and that is of no consequence. It is enough that the inner life has grown firm, that the dream has space to flourish, and that the heart has learned to rest in its own quiet truth. And sometimes, when they are truly still, they feel a soft smile rise in the chest, a gentle acknowledgement of the life that has quietly taken shape within. It is not a victory shouted from the rooftops. It is not a triumph that demands notice. It is the quiet, enduring knowledge that believing in something quietly, holding it tenderly, and refusing to let the world's small doubts dictate its value, has created a life that is quietly, deeply whole. What a strange and beautiful thing it is to discover that the greatest strength often comes without display, and that the deepest peace often grows in silence. That the power of the heart does not lie in proving itself to others, but in nurturing its own truths, in carrying its own light steadily, and in resting, finally, in the gentle certainty of one's own faith. And so they sit softly, breathing in stillness, feeling the slow, steady growth of the dream they have protected. There is no need for words, no need for applause, no need for recognition. It is enough that the heart has learned its own measure, that the light inside has been held with care, and that quietly, in the calm of their own presence, they have discovered the truest kind of strength, the kind that endures, that nourishes, and that rests peacefully within.